Well, we're finally here. The halfway mark. That's right, we've finally made it to the 75th day in our journey of a professional Terraria builder spending 150 days in Calamity's death mode. We've had a pretty long journey with some pretty amazing highs. Damn, that's a pretty nice build. And some not so surprising lows. And today marks the beginning of the back half of this journey, so let's get to it. Oh man, after a good night's sleep, I'm feeling pretty well rested, and it's time to get right back to work. There was a lot of progress made, and beating bosses like Plantera, Golem, and the Calamitous clone means we're ready to really start getting into the meat of this journey. We've officially hit the halfway mark. A whopping 75 days in is no small feat. But we don't have time to think about that, we have some business to take care of. Because before my much needed beauty sleep, I had to grab a bunch of Scoria ore and was totally ready to make an upgrade. And this was going to be to the hydrothermic armor. Except that at the time, I needed these pesky cores of havoc, so I quickly went off to start farming. Right after I have this very satisfying moment digging out all of the iron ore on this planetoid. Oh yeah, that's the stuff.
Nice.
Anyways, from there, I definitely went off to farm those pesky cores, right? Nope, not a chance. With the attention span of a goldfish, something that I keep reminding you that I have, I decided I need to take a closer look at the boss checklist to see what I might be missing. And would you look at that? There's this great sand shark. That might be fun. So I headed off to the desert, pulled out the summoning item, and got ready for one hell of a fight. Oh, well, that's a first. That was really easy and a very welcome surprise. I really hope that the rest of the bosses are this easy. Anyways, I'm not gonna worry about that too much. It's probably no surprise that such an easy boss has absolutely caca for items, but I'll take the victory and another boss checked off my list. And speaking of checking bosses off the list, I decided to go to the next boss on said list, and that was gonna be Anahita and the Leviathan. Okay, first off, that sounds like two bosses, not one, so that's not my favorite. And second, any boss with Leviathan in it does not exactly instill a sense of confidence. Now, scary name aside, another interesting thing I noticed is that there isn't a summoning item associated with this particular boss. But if you look a bit more closely, it's clearly telling me to head off to the ocean. So that's exactly where I went. But upon my arrival, I noticed my ocean wasn't looking all too healthy, so I grabbed my Clintameter and give this a quick scrubbing. Yeah, that's a bit better. And so with my ocean now looking like a proper ocean, it was just a matter of finding the boss. Now, I'm not exactly sure if it spawns here or if I have to be in the ocean at a certain time of day or during a certain moon cycle or some other nonsense, but after a fair amount of time, this spear-wielding mermaid showed up and the fight was on. I didn't know what to expect, but after dancing around for a little bit and exchanging a few blows, this fight seemed more than doable. But just as I got Anahita down to around 30% hit points, the health bar reset. The screen began to shake, and I knew things were about to get a whole lot worse. You know that sneaking suspicion from before, that this was definitely not just one boss but two? That was correct. The Leviathan was now here, and I was about to face his wrath. I mean, I didn't really expect to win or anything, but the damage from these guys was way more than I would have expected. Plus, I have to dodge two bosses as well as all of their annoying projectiles, so that's not my favorite. But I still feel this is doable, so let's give this another shot. Okay, not gonna lie, I thought I had that one. But not one to be easily discouraged, I immediately respawned, teleported back to the ocean, and yes, gave this another try. I actually think that went worse than last time, and while this pattern didn't necessarily continue, I did attempt this over and over and gradually did a little bit better each time. At this point, this was getting a bit ridiculous. This boss is beatable. I can beat it. I will beat it. So with a deep breath, a quick prayer, and an intimidating crack of my knuckles, I got right back in there to overcome this oversized obstacle. I dipped, ducked, dodged, and dived and managed to land the final blows on the Leviathan. I finally had the opening I needed to take out the other half of the equation, and with her health bar already dangerously low, victory was finally within my reach. And with that, with more attempts than I can remember, the Leviathan was defeated, and my struggles were finally over. When I returned home, I took a moment to open the loot bag and found 2 items that were at least interesting: the ambergris, which could theoretically be useful in the Abyss, and this summoning item called the Belter Staff, which might provide me with a little bit more damage. However, unbeknownst to me, there is apparently a very good item called the Community, which can drop from this boss. Provides increased damage, crit chance, health, defense, and pretty much everything you could want. And best of all, it becomes more powerful as you defeat additional bosses. Of course, the Community was the one that informed me about this item, but they also told me an item like this, yeah, it's pretty rare. And tempting as it might be to try and farm, that boss was enough of a pain for me to blissfully ignore that it exists and just move on. And where I was moving was back to the dark depths of the Abyss. I wasn't exactly sure what was down there, but after defeating another aquatic-based boss, I figured this was a natural next step for my exploration. And as I dove deeper and deeper, I ran into my old friend, the colossal squid. But this time, I was going to actually fight it. Yes, this thing is insanely tanky, but with a bit of luck and a lot of cheese, I managed to get him stuck between some rocks and slowly whittled him down. Seriously though, I think I sat here for a good 5 minutes just doing exactly what you see here, and I was rewarded with literally nothing of value. So these squids seem to be incredibly annoying to destroy and offer very little in return. 1 out of 10, would not recommend. But moving aside my disappointment, I continued to dive deeper and deeper until I reached this shiny cave area at the bottom of the Abyss. That's right, I'd finally made it to the bottom. I quickly ran into and defeated this new enemy, the Gulper Eel, and then ran into one of our older friends, the Reaper Shark.
Hello.
Now last time, if you'll recall, this thing totally crushed me. Like, it wasn't even close. But this time I had some significantly improved gear and way more damage. I was going to take this guy on, and I planned on winning. It was an insanely close fight. I had literally less than 1 heart left, but I pulled it off and quickly went to collect my loot, which was just so disappointing. Seriously, an extended, crazy close fight for 90 gold and some voidstone. Negative 100 out of 10. Do not recommend. And this is about the point where it dawned on me. I'm starting to think that these extremely tanky enemies in the Abyss, they're not worth fighting. But of course, while this thought dawned on me, I didn't actually change my actions, and I continued to go further down and fight more enemies until this crazy worm thing spawned. Now this thing is almost certainly a boss. It's fast, takes almost no damage, and probably only gets more challenging as the fight goes on, meaning it's probably got several phases, and there's no shot I'm dealing with this right now. But I wasn't going to be able to find out much either way. I'd spent a very long time in the Abyss, and my oxygen was running out. Not to mention I'd attracted attention from a number of other enemies, so it was time for me to get out of here. Now my inventory wasn't exactly jam-packed, but I did pick up a lot of used materials like luminol and some of these chests which had a bunch of potions and a few other things. But now that I was thinking about materials again, I was quickly reminded that I still need those freaking cores of havoc for my freaking hydrothermic armor set. And then the worst thing happened. I realized I already had everything I needed to make these things.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
Yep, All I had to do was take a closer look, and I would have realized that the hydrothermic armor was totally at my beck and call. If only I had taken a second to realize I had sufficient scoria to make the cores and therefore the armor. Needless to say, this is embarrassing, even for me. But hey, we got some new armor. And what better way to celebrate this new armor than with a nice new shiny weapon, like this Totality Breaker, which I was told I should make. Basically, it's just a high-powered Molotov cocktail. Yeah, I think these will work quite nicely. And as an added extra bonus, I also decided to make an additional weapon that I thought would be of use, this Epidemic Shredder. It's basically just a short-range boomerang that has a ton of projectiles and does some very solid damage. Of course, as usual, I needed to see just how well these things work, for science. And today's test subject would be yet another new boss, Astrum Aureus. Okay, so maybe I was a little overconfident, but I actually don't know anything about this boss, but it honestly seemed easy enough, and I was doing more than enough damage to take this guy out. So we're gonna go ahead and take a mulligan on that one, but I did drag myself back to the astral biome, summon him again, and aim to exact my vengeance. Yeah, that's what I thought. With the final strikes landing, Astrum Aureus was defeated, and not only was I rewarded with a treasure bag, but I was also surprised with a new message. A faint ethereal click can be heard from the dungeon. Meaning there was definitely something new in the dungeon for me to find, but before any additional exploration could take place, I decided to go back home and check out what goodies I had earned myself. And honestly, this Oratical Throw seems like it's not too bad. A weapon that fits my class, splits into a variety of projectiles, and homes in on a target? Well shoot, sign me up, partner. Unfortunately, this has rolled the strong modifier, which is totally unacceptable. So I went and visited the most just and fair NPC in all the land to reroll this thing to maximize the damage. But after stealing most of my shekels, I finally got what I wanted and decided to put this item to the test and take on another familiar, albeit annoying boss. Fish was on the menu, and Duke Fishron was going down. All I had to do was head to the ocean, fish up the Duke, and get to work. Easy peasy. Though I will say he was a bit more annoying than usual, especially in phase 3 where he was moving really fast and doing a lot more damage than I'd like. But with Duke Fishron now defeated, I headed back to base to find the standard payoff, uninspiring loot. But in all fairness here, I typically fight this boss for the wings or the Razorblade Typhoon, or both, and since we're in Calamity, I'm pretty sure we can find some more potent items. So in the spirit of newer and stronger things, I had but one place to look, and that was at the boss list, where my next target was already predetermined. I was going after the Plaguebringer who resided in the jungle. All I needed was the correct summoning item, and I was on my merry way. I started heading over to the jungle, slowly made my way down to my old Plantera arena, and summoned yet another boss I'd never seen before. And after an extended fight where I was dodging a lot of missiles and projectiles, I ended with relatively low health, but I did manage to give this armored fly the final swat required. And with that, my victory over yet another Calamity boss was secured. I then headed home one more time to check out what new loot would inevitably disappoint me. But I was only half right. While the loot was mediocre for a rogue, I did at least get these slightly improved wings, and honestly, I'll never turn my nose up at being able to move around faster. But at this stage, I felt like the defeat of Leviathan, Astrum Aureus, Duke Fishron, and the Plaguebringer were big steps forward, and this was truly some important progress. Of course, along the way, there were a few small upgrades to my armor and some of my weapons as well. But somehow I felt this lingering disappointment at not finding something major, something really game-changing. And that's when I heard it. A faint clicking sound from the dungeon. I knew where I'd be heading next, but that would have to wait until the next time.